like to move it, move it. I like to move it, move it. You like to move it. I like to move it, move it. I like to move it, move it. I like to move it, move it. You like to move it.
Do you know that song? If you've seen the movie Madagascar, then you've probably heard that song before. Well, there's a group of scientists who took that song and they rewrote it to go like this. I like to prove it, prove it. I like to prove it, prove it. I like to prove it, prove it. I like to, your turn, prove it. So today in science, what we will be talking about is observing and classifying matter. Scientists have a phrase that they like to say. Scientists like to say, I can prove it. So that's what we'll be talking about today when we talk about observing and classifying matter. So let's first read this book, Observing and Classifying Matter. In order to be able to observe and classify matter, we need to know more about the different states of matter. You see, scientists, they don't just say like, oh yeah, that's a solid. Oh yeah, that's a liquid. Oh, that's a gas. They're not just all willy-nilly about it. They make sure that they can prove what they are saying. So let's learn more about these three states of matter so that we can then explore some different items and try to prove what state of matter they are. Okay, here's our book, Observing and Classifying Matter. So our table of contents, we'll be learning about matter, solids, measuring solids, liquids, air, and other gases. Matter. Matter is what all things are made of. All matter takes up space. All matter has mass. These are properties of matter. Size is also a property of matter. Color and shape are other properties. Solids. A solid is a form of matter. Some solids are hard, some are soft. Solids are different sizes and colors. Solids have different textures. All solids have a shape of their own. You can do things to change the shape. You can bend a solid or break it or cut it, but the shape does not change on its own. Measuring solids. You can measure the mass of a solid. A balance helps you measure mass. You can measure the size of a solid. A ruler helps you measure size. A ruler may measure in centimeters, or it may measure in inches. Liquids. A liquid is a form of matter. Liquids do not have their own shape. They take the shape of their container. There's a measuring cup. You can measure the volume of a liquid. A measuring cup measures volume. It may measure volume in milliliters, or it may measure volume in ounces. Air and other gases. A gas is a form of matter. A gas has no shape of its own. A gas fills its entire container. Air is made up of gases. You cannot see or smell air, but you can see what air does. Let's see what Annie and Moby have to teach us about solids, liquids, and gases.
better tools than that, Moby. That piece of stone is really hard. It's a solid. You know, a solid? It's a kind of matter. What is matter? Matter is all around us. All living and non-living things are made of matter. Yep, those glasses are made of matter. Water is made of matter too. Right, your floaties are filled with matter. We are even made of matter. In fact, everything that takes up space is matter. And all matter has mass too. Like, you're a lot bigger and heavier than me. So your mass is greater than mine. We can sort or classify matter into three main groups: solids, liquids, and gases. What are solids like? A solid is a kind of matter that has its own shape. I see lots of solids here. They look really different from each other because they have different properties. Well, a property is a way to describe matter. Like this towel is soft, fuzzy, and blue. And that diving board is long, white, and made of hard plastic. What are liquids like? Water is a liquid, and it sure is wet. Other liquids can be sticky or slippery. A liquid is a kind of matter that does not have its own shape. It flows and takes the shape of whatever container it's in. When you measure the amount of space something takes up, you find its volume. When we cook, we use measuring cups and spoons to help us measure volume. But your inner tube was filled with air. What are gases like? A gas is like a liquid because it flows and takes the shape of its container. Gases can be invisible or have smells. All right, Moby, you're filling that inner tube up with gas. Air is all around us, and it's made of different gases. What? The sun is made of gases too? You've been to the sun? And you didn't know? So you see, Moby, that stone is really solid. What are you trying to make anyway?
All right. Thank you, Annie and Moby, for that. So now, scientists, second grade scientists, did you learn any new information about solids, liquids, or gases? Was there anything that you heard in this video that you already knew? I want you to think right now of anything new that you learned and anything that this video taught us that you already knew. Okay? I'm going to give you, again, 15 seconds to talk about that with somebody near you or your imaginary science lab partner. Ready, set, turn and talk. All right, and our time is up. So now it's time for us to act like real life scientists. So what was that song again that I sang at the beginning? Do you remember? I'm going to start it and then you finish it. When I point to you, you finish it. Ready? I like to prove it, prove it. I like to prove it, prove it. I like to prove it, prove it. I like to prove it. That song just gets me every time. So as I had mentioned, that's a scientist song because scientists like to prove things. So we are going to do some proving ourselves. We're going to use our observational skills to classify matter. Let me show you what our activity sheet looks like. Okay, now you can find this in your Google Classroom if you are learning from home. And if you're learning from school, your teacher will hand it to you. Okay, so in just a moment, we are going to be examining some different specimens. That's a very fancy science word that just means things. So we're going to be examining some specimens to determine what state of matter they are. We have to use our observational skills. We have to observe them in order to prove what state of matter they are. So let me show you what we'll be looking at. In bag number 1, our first specimen, I have a ball. In bag number 2, our second specimen, I have some water. And in bag number 3, I have some air. Okay. Now, in order to observe these objects, these specimens, like scientists would do, we need to come up with some questions that we can ask ourselves that will be the same across all 3 specimens. So what are some questions that we could ask to determine if something is a solid, a liquid, or a gas? I'll give you one example. Let's see. I could ask, does the object change shape in the bag? Right? That would prove there's only one thing that we know does not change shape. What is that? Call it out in 3, 2, 1. Yes, you're right. Solids do not change shape. So that would certainly help us to prove whether or not something is a solid. Can you try to think of 2 more questions that we could ask for all 3 objects to help us to prove what state of matter that object is? I'm going to give you 15 seconds to try to come up with some other questions that we could use to make some observations. Ready, set, turn and talk. All right, time is up. Stop, look, and listen. So let me show you here the activity sheet that we'll be working on. And I wonder if you came up with any of the same questions that I came up with for this activity sheet. So one question is, does the, in this case it's ball, but you'll see the questions are the same across all 3 bags. I just changed one word in it. So this one says, does the ball change shape in the bag? For bag number 2, it says, does the water change shape in the bag? And number 3 says, does the air change shape in the bag? Okay. Let's see. Can you pass a Q-tip through the ball? And I wrote the same question for the other 2 specimens as well. Is the Q-tip wet when removed from the bag? Can you see the ball in the bag? And again, I wrote those same questions for each specimen. So now we're going to do this sheet together. Once you have your sheet in front of you, the first thing we do is always the same. We pick up our pencil and write down our name. So go ahead and do that. And then you can write the date as well. I'm going to write my name at the top. And I will write today's date. Now the date that you write is probably different because you're probably listening to this lesson on a different date than I'm making the lesson. Okay. So the directions at the top say, use your observation skills to learn about different states of matter. Bag number 1. Does the ball change shape in the bag? So I'm going to take bag number 1, our first specimen, and let's see. Does the ball change shape? Thumbs up, thumbs down. No, it does not change shape. So I'm just going to write no here. You do the same. Can you pass, the next question says, can you pass a Q-tip through the ball? Let me see, I have my Q-tip here. Now I'm going to take the Q-tip and I'm going to try to pass it through. Does it pass through? Thumbs up, thumbs down. No, it does not. So again, we can simply record the word no. Now, is the Q-tip wet when removed from the bag? So I took it out of the bag. Does it look wet to you? Thumbs up, thumbs down. No, it's not wet. It doesn't feel wet either. So we'll say no. Okay, last question. Can you see the ball in the bag? Do you see it? Thumbs up, thumbs down? Yes. So we can just write the word yes. Okay, now through my observations, I was able to scientifically prove that the ball is a... Would you turn and tell the person next to you or your imaginary lab partner how you're able to prove what the ball is? Is the ball a solid, a liquid, or a gas? Tell how you know. I'll give you 15 seconds and go. All right, so you might have said something like this. I was able to scientifically prove that the ball is a solid. I want to write the word solid here. Did you think it was a solid too? Yes? Okay, make sure that you write that word. And maybe you said something like this. I know it's a solid because it does not change shape. I cannot pass another object through it. When I pulled the object out after I had touched it, when I pulled the Q-tip out, it wasn't wet like it would be if it was a liquid. So I know it can't be a liquid. And I can see it. So after examining all of these questions, I am able to prove scientifically that the ball is a solid. Let's take a look now at bag number 2. Our next specimen is water. And I simply colored it so that it would be easier to see. All right. So the first question says, does the water change shape in the bag? Well, let's observe. As I move the bag around, does it change shape? Thumbs up, thumbs down? Yes, it does. Go ahead and write the word yes. Okay. Next question. I have to be careful not to make a mess here while I do this. The next question that we need to ask here is, can you pass a Q-tip through the water? So watch and observe. Let me see if I can. Okay, can you see that? I'm able to pass the Q-tip through the water. So you can write the word I will do that too. Okay, now is the Q-tip wet when removed from the bag? Let's see here. Can you tell? Yes, it's wet. You see it picked up the color of the water, and it is in fact wet. If I feel it on my hand, it feels wet. So again, we can write the word yes. Okay. And final question. Can you see the water in the bag? Thumbs up, thumbs down. Yes, you can. Okay, now again, we're going to finish this sentence. Through my observations, I was able to scientifically prove that the water is a blank, and you're going to fill in that blank. Solid, liquid, or gas. After you finish filling in that blank, I want you to turn and talk to the person next to you about how you were able to prove that the water is in fact a liquid. You have 15 seconds and go. All right, excellent job, everybody. So what I was thinking is I was able to scientifically prove that the water is liquid because it changes shape. I was able to pass another object through it, and then when I pulled that object out, the object was wet, and I'm able to see it in the bag. If I wasn't able to see it, it might be gas, right? But since I'm able to see it, I know it must be a liquid. Okay, last but not least, bag number 3. So bag number 3 is air. Let me see, I'm just gonna add some more air to it. There we go. Okay, now, let's ask these questions. Does the air change shape in the bag? So if I close this up, right? Now watch this. Ooh, look at that. Ooh, I can't squish it all the way down. Why is that? Even though we can't see the air, we know it's inside because I cannot squish this bag all the way down. Interesting, right? But does the air change shape? So as I squish it, is the air moving around? Yeah. Would it do that if it was a solid? No, it wouldn't. So does the air change shape in the bag? Write the word yes. Can you pass a Q-tip through the air? I'm going to take my Q-tip right now. I'm going to open up my bag. See, can I pass a Q-tip through it? Thumbs up, thumbs down. Yes, I can. Let's write the word yes. Is the Q-tip wet when removed from the bag? Well, let's examine it. Let me touch it. It doesn't feel wet, so you can write no. Can you see? Oh, I just realized I have a typo here. I'm going to fix this in the copy that you get. It says, can you see bag in the bag? That doesn't make any sense at all. So I'm fixing it. It's going to say air. Can you see the air in the bag? Okay, so take a look. Are you able to see the air in the bag? Open it up too. No, right? All right, now I want you to fill in the sentence. Read it with me. Through my observations, I was able to scientifically prove that and this is wrong too, this should say that the air, my goodness, I guess Mrs. Miller was trying to rush through this, through making this sheet for you. And I made some mistakes along the way. I'll have to fix them. Anyway, so through my observations, I was able to scientifically prove that the air is a, fill in that blank, and then you're going to talk to somebody next to you about how you know what type of matter the air was. Ready, set, go. All right, time is up. Stop, look, and listen. So did you write that the air is a gas? Hey, and maybe you said something like this. I was able to scientifically prove that the air is a gas because the air changes shape. I can pass another object through it. I wouldn't be able to do that if it was a solid. When I pulled the Q-tip out from the bag of air, the Q-tip was not wet like it would be if it was a liquid. And I cannot see the air in the bag. I would be able to see whatever object it was if it was a solid or a liquid. So excellent job, scientists. Thank you so very much for joining me today. And remember, as scientists, we always want to prove it, prove it. I want to prove it, prove it. I like to prove it.